Hello. Um, Blair and Cyrus, we miss you guys on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, we joined on Zoom.
Oh, you guys were on Zoom. Yeah, I have to find out how to look in. There's a way, I guess, post afterwards, you can find out how many people were on Zoom. Um, let me just find the stuff I want. Hi, Brittany. Hi, Doug.
Howdy.
Hello.
Okay, what am I looking up here? I'm finding something. Oh yeah. Let's pull all this stuff up. Do class material. Oh. That's what I want. Mm. Good. Hey Daniel,
Hello.
how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Very nice to see your folks in Shul.
Yeah, I was on Zoom.
Oh, you guys watch it on Zoom too? Good.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right, let me find this next thing I need. Okay, Sukkot lesson. And okay, I just want to gonna move this over. Okay, so I sent an email to all of you that I saw in my syllabus where we were going to do the last session on God, but then I was like, well, why are we doing that? Because Sukkot is coming up this week, and we can cover Shemini Atzeret at the same time, Shemini Atzeret and Simhat Torah at the same time, and it would be more useful. I just did something. Okay. Um, okay, yeah, 7:32. So we'll start. Okay, so we're going to talk about Sukkot. Hopefully, if people were with us on Zoom, you got through the day and you saw, if you were on Zoom, you saw that it is a very long day, but it's a very inspiring day too. I think, and especially we're very fortunate to have um, Cantor Sheriff with us, who just has a beautiful voice and knows how to sing the music of the day with a real sense of poignancy in his voice, I think. So that really helps. Um, and you saw there were a lot of different pieces in the day. I don't know how if you were with us the whole time, but from the evening through the day, there's these various passages that we go through, where we start and we feeling anxious, and then we get to the middle of the day and we're like, oh God, we really haven't done what we should have. And then as we get towards the end of the day, we start to feel a little bit more confident that, we've done our part to some extent. I mean, obviously, we talked about this last week. Yom Kippur atones for wrongs that we've done between us and God, if we have true regret, but we still have work to do if we've wronged somebody else. And now we finish Yom Kippur, and there's this sense of release, and then we get into Sukkot. And Sukkot is a very interesting holiday because in some ways it's just what you would think after Yom Kippur. It is a release. It's a celebration. It's a simcha, a joyful time after we've gone through this difficult period of reflection and regret and atonement. On the other hand, it's also kind of a peace, as we'll get into, with Yom Kippur, in terms of that sense of concern, anxiety. The sermon that I gave, I don't know if you were able to hear the sermon on the day of Yom Kippur. I talked about that this kind of this theme that runs through Yom Kippur. It's not only about death. and confronting our death, and which helps us to think about, well, what kind of life do we want to live with the time we have left? But there's a darker theme of that sometimes things are just unfair. I mean, obviously, the idea of Yom Kippur is we've done something wrong, we're judged negatively, we correct the fault, we're judged positively, we go through this experience. But there's a recognition, of course, this is reality that we all know from, if we're fortunate, not ourselves, but we know of other people who have had very difficult experiences. You know, they're good people, and it didn't work out for them. I mean, this is the great question of every religion. How do you answer, why do bad things happen to good people? And that's running through the day. And so that kind of anxiety and that sense of fragility of life is also found in Sukkot. So we'll begin by saying, first of all, here's I gotta call up my sheet, my PowerPoint. Let's see, what do I do again? I gotta go to Zoom. Oh, come on. Share screen. There we go. Okay. So you should see, there you go. They should be seeing the screen there. Len made a nice green in honor of Sukkot. Okay, wait, now I gotta how do you do this? You can see, I guess, very little challenge here. Okay, I just gotta click on the right thing, and wait, where's the right button? It says play. No, not design, not draw, not insert. Oh, there it is. Okay, there you go. Play from the start. Okay, here we go. Oh, nope, I didn't want to do that because then I can't see my notes. Okay, so, okay, we'll just do it like this. All right. So the festival of Sukkot, Sukkot, a sukkah is a booth. Sometimes it's called the Feast of Tabernacles because I guess a tabernacle is a booth, but a sukkah is a little booth. I'll show you pictures in a second. And you can see there the two names of the holiday, and the reason why I didn't want to put CH for Chag. Chag means holiday, but I want to put CH because people get so confused. They think it's Chag or something, or it's a ch sound. It's not. It's a sound that is in various languages. It's the back of your throat. So sometimes you see it with an H with a dot underneath it, but I can't figure out how to do that on the computer, so I did it as a italic. So it's Chag HaSukkot is the name, Feast of Booths, but it's also referred to as Chag HaAsif, the holiday of gathering, of ingathering, because Sukkot takes place this time of year in the fall. People are gathering in their harvest. Certainly in ancient Israel, this was the time for the big harvest, and it was a joyful time because you had all your stuff. Your coffers were filled up at this time of year, so it was a joyous time. It's Sukkot is one of three pilgrimage festivals, and when we say pilgrimage, what I mean by that is that people were called upon to go on a pilgrimage to, eventually it would be Jerusalem. In the Bible, it's not Jerusalem, but eventually when the people are settled in the land, and certainly when the temple is built, they would be called upon to make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, to the temple. And they would celebrate there. Sukkot is celebrated for 7 days. So it's a little different from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's a 7-day holiday according to the Torah. The dates are the 15th to the 21st of the Hebrew month of Tishrei, right? We said Rosh Hashanah is the first and second days of Tishrei. Yom Kippur is the 10th, and Sukkot is the 15th to the 21st. So it's 7 days, but it's the 8th day after the 7 days of Sukkot. In the Torah, it says it's also a holiday. And we'll get to what that means. It's called Shemini Atzeret, but since it's the eighth day after the 7 days of Sukkot, you really have an 8-day festival period. Now, in the post-Talmudic times, as Jewish people are expanding in where they live geographically, and there's a growing diaspora, I think I mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago, we're talking about Rosh Hashanah. So I mentioned that Rosh Hashanah is different than the 2-day holidays that we have for Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot. Though the three festivals, the three pilgrimage festivals, the reason why they're 2 days is because, if you remember right, the holidays, the months, I should say, the months in ancient Israel were determined by a court in Jerusalem. You went to the major court called the Sanhedrin. People would come, say, I saw the new moon for the new month, which indicates there's a new month. They would ask the person some questions. They would declare, he saw it because they knew where exactly the moon should appear in the sky. And okay, you saw it. Very good. We declared this is the beginning of the new month. That's fine. The problem is that when you want to get the word out to people as to what day to celebrate, let's say it's the month of Tishrei, when do you celebrate Sukkot? To let people know, oh, we declared a new month, 15 days from now is Sukkot. Some of the Jewish diaspora was so far away, and of course this is ancient times, so they didn't have phones and they didn't have cars. By the time they got to those outlying areas where Jews lived, now, at this point, Jews were living up in where Turkey is today, possibly even into where England was, because some of the Jewish migrations went with the Roman migrations or the Roman armies. They followed the Roman armies. So you would never get the word within the 2 weeks. So since, as I mentioned before, a Jewish month is determined by the revolution of the moon around the earth, and that takes 29 and a half days. So from month to month, it's either the 29th day or the 30th day, right? Because it's a half. So the custom developed, as long as it's 2 days, it's got to be either one of those days, the 15th or the 16th of the previous month, or I guess it would be the 15th of the 16th of whatever we assumed is the new month, because we haven't heard directly yet. It's got to be one of those 2 days. Again, because 29 and a half. So either the new month started on the 29th day from the previous month or the 30th day. So in the diaspora, what happened was the first 2 days of Sukkot are a holiday. Then this middle days, you've got 5 days in the middle. Then you've got Shemini Atzeret, which is this holiday attached to Sukkot, which is a holiday unto itself. It's just a 1-day holiday, but in the diaspora it becomes a 2-day holiday. So what's so interesting is it developed in the Middle Ages that the second day of this holiday of Shemini Atzeret became known as Simhat Torah. So it was the same day, but it acquired basically 2 names and 2 types of celebration. Shemini Atzeret is simply a liturgical holiday. We celebrate it. It's not exactly like Shabbat. There are certain leniencies, just like on Sukkot, but the second day, known as Simchat Torah, there's a special celebration. We'll talk about in a moment what you do on Simchat Torah. It becomes a special Simchat Torah, meaning joy of the Torah, and this becomes the official end and new beginning of the Torah reading, the cycle of Torah reading, because we read the entire cycle of Torah, all 5 books, within a year. So this becomes the starting point. So in the diaspora, the second day of Shemini Atzeret took on its own identity. In the land of Israel, where you only observe to this day except for Rosh Hashanah, You only observe 1 day of Sukkot, 1 day of Passover, 1 day of Shemini Atzeret. They combine the two holidays, the Shemini Atzeret and the Simhat Torah celebration, all in 1 day. Okay. So, like other pilgrimage holidays, Pesach and Shavuot and Sukkot include both agricultural and historical dimensions. Oh, I think I wanted to. Oh, we'll get to that in a second. Historical and agricultural dimensions. And the festival's name can be explained with reference to either. The Torah connects the name Sukkot to booths in which the Israelites dwelled throughout their desert sojourn. So here's the verse. There we go. You shall live in Sukkot 7 days. All citizens in Israel shall live in Sukkot in order that future generations may know that I made the Israelite people live in Sukkot when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord. So this is a passage in Leviticus, and it describes how you can see there the connection that this holiday has once again with the experience of Egypt, or the Exodus from Egypt. This is the period. Sukkot, therefore, historically remembers the period after the Exodus, during the years the people lived in the desert. And the idea of living in Sukkot, and notice that the text says, I made the Israelite people live in Sukkot, meaning that God protected the people during this sojourn by having them live in these kind of temporary dwelling places. And that was a sign of God's protection and love of the people. But that's where we get this idea that the Sukkot remind us of that period in the desert after the freedom from Egypt. As such, the commandment to reside in booths links the festival to the historic Exodus and commemorates the experience of the Israelites as they wandered through the desert. Apart from this, though, Sukkot coincides with the end of the agricultural year in Israel. It's the fall, and it's a time when lots of fruits, olives, and grapes are ripening. And these and other crops had to be harvested before the arrival of the winter rains. And since in ancient times, the fields where the farmers were working were often located at some distance from where they lived, it was difficult for the workers to return to their homes each evening. So some scholars believe that the agricultural laborers, therefore, would often spend the night in their fields in these temporary huts. Because they were working the fields, they were also protecting their fields. And they were living in these fields during the summer where it's very, very hot. So the shade of the sukkah that they would protect them, would cool them. Thus, the festivities commemorating the completion of the harvest would have taken place in those same booths. And again, here now, the sukkah or Sukkot have an agricultural aspect. And a second, you saw the name before, Chag HaAsif, which is another biblical designation for Sukkot, refers to that harvest. And in the book of Exodus, it refers to that, the Feast of Ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in the results of your work from the field. So there it doesn't call the holiday Sukkot, but we make the assumption, because it's talking about festivals, that this term, Chag HaAsif, Festival and Gathering, which comes at the end of the agricultural year, is also an important part of Sukkot. Now, let's see here, get another picture. There we go. So throughout the biblical and Second Temple times, Sukkot was the most important festival of the Israelite year. Both biblical and rabbinic sources refer to Sukkot simply as He-Chag. So that's what they call it, the He-Chag. It's like capital T, capital H, the holiday. You would think, wow, what about Pesach? What about, and Shavuot is another important holiday. But no, of the three festival holidays, Sukkot was the most significant and referred to as the holiday. Um, Although the Torah commands Israelites to travel to Jerusalem temple on each pilgrimage festival, it seems that in practice, most of the population could only make the journey once a year, and typically after the autumn harvest that marked the close of the agricultural cycle. So their labors were complete. The pilgrims flocked to the temple to offer thanksgiving for the bounty of the harvest and to pray for rain and fertility for the coming year. So this is getting us into some of these themes here. And here's a picture you see there is, I don't know when it was taken, but it was a picture from a longer period of time when people were going to Jerusalem to celebrate the holiday. In the temple precincts, of course, where this picture is taken, it wasn't a temple, but people still came to Jerusalem to celebrate the holidays. In the temple precincts, when there was a temple, the priests would lead the people in an elaborate, complex of rituals over the course of the festival week. Sacrifices were brought in great abundance throughout the festival. While on the second night, an all-night celebration known as Simhat Beit HaSho'eva. Let me get another picture up here. Here we go. There's a little picture. Simhat Beit HaSho'eva, the rejoicing at the place of water drawing, was observed in the temple courtyards with dancing, feasting, and songs of praise. At dawn, priests drew water from the Siloam pool and walked in festival procession, followed by throngs of celebrants to the temple and altar, upon which they poured the water as a libation. Now, this water libation was repeated on each day of the holiday, after the first day, as was a procession in which they circled the altar with willow branches. And these were then set aside beside the altar as adornments. On the seventh day, so this would be the last day of the festival, it was given a special name, Hoshana Rabbah, the Great Hoshana, and the worshipers circled the altar with their willows 7 times. The term Hoshana is the word in this prayer that we recite. Hoshana means save us, and every day, and to this day, we still do it with our lulav and etrog. We walk around the altar and we say, Hoshana, save us, we need rain. You can see the importance of water in this festival. The water libation, the asking for water in these prayers, the significance of celebrating the holiday before the winter rains would come. So rain was because rain was essential in the agricultural world. And so every day they would recite a prayer with the term Hoshana in it, save us. And then on the last day of the festival, they do it 7 times. The purpose of these and other rituals was to tap into the temple's powers of fertility and to entreat God to provide rain. And the Mishnah relates that on Sukkot, God judges the world with respect to the quantity of rain that will fall in the coming next year. We talked about Rosh Hashanah is the day when every individual is judged, but there are 3 other periods of time during the year when the world is judged, and 2 weeks later on Sukkot, according to the rabbis, the world is judged according to the amount of rain that it will receive. So there was a tremendous anxiety, is this going to be a good year or not with rain? Too little rain is no good, too much rain is no good, you want it just right. The festival Sukkot, therefore, possesses a dual sensibility. On the one hand, it's as I mentioned, the most joyous festival. You got all your crops have been harvested, storehouses are full, and there are prayers of thanks given for the gift of sustenance. Um, we refer in the prayer book, we refer to Sukkot as the time of our rejoicing. It's called Zman Simchatenu. Simcha meaning rejoicing, happiness. So Zman Simchatenu is the time of our joy or time of our happiness. And the rabbis nostalgically recalled the temple celebrations that occurred at Sukkot as the happiest times when the entire people would celebrate harmoniously. On the other hand, Sukkot is tinged with anxiety because you don't know if you're going to get the rain. And so there's uncertainty regarding the harvest of the coming year. In this respect, it resembles, again, as I was mentioning, it's kind of an extension of Yom Kippur, a season when fates are decided and one prays in fear and trembling for a favorable judgment. On Sukkot, it is not the individual's fate that is decided, as is the case on Yom Kippur, but the collective fortune of the community, which always depends on rain and on the fertility of the earth. Now, the destruction of the temple, of course, brought an end to these cultic rituals. However, two rituals did survive to the present day, and that's what the focus is today with Sukkot. Two major observances. So here's one: is the wait, there we go. The sukkah, and here the picture of the lulav, or lulav and etrog, as sometimes it's referred to as. The where do I got the? Here we go. So the lulav can refer to this bouquet, you might call it, this collection, this gathering of 4 species, or it can just refer to the palm branch. So the lulav and the etrog are 4 species. The palm branch is this. The etrog is this. It's a citron. The attached to, you can see in this little basket, at least this is the Ashkenazic way. I mentioned my son-in-law is Sephardi, and they do it a slightly different way of attaching the plants together. But the Ashkenazic ways have this little basket, which is made out of palm branches. And so you have the main palm branch here in the middle, and then okay, so this picture might be a little backwards. To the right of the palm are the 3 hadassim, 3 myrtles, and to the left are 2 willows of the brook. They're called aravot. And then you have the citron, the etrog right here. Now this etrog, I guess a lot of the ones we got this year are green. Usually they're yellow, but I have a feeling sometimes they grow them green. I have a feeling though, maybe because this year Sukkot's a little early, they when they picked them, they were still a little bit green. So they haven't ripened yet. But and there are 3 myrtle, 2 willow, 1 palm branch lulav, and 1 etrog. The traditions tell us, try to explain why we have these plants. Why are we walking around with these plants? Well, it's and where they come from. Well, the Torah tells us that you're supposed to have these 4 plants. It tells us it's called the arba minim. Arba is 4, minim is types or species. So 4 species. the book of Leviticus doesn't really give you too much detail. Product of goodly trees, branches of palm trees. Okay, so that's pretty clear. Boughs of leafy trees. Okay, well, a lot of leafy trees, and willows of the brook. Okay, so willows of the brook were pretty cool on palm trees. Product of goodly trees, Eitz Hadar, is what came to be understood as the citron, which is kind of interesting because you can't really eat it. If you ever look inside a citron, I mean an etrog, it's all pith and seeds. There's almost no fruit in the within it. Um, and if you're at the synagogue during these days, we don't carry the lulav and etrog on Shabbat, just like we don't blow shofar on Shabbat, but we will carry them on Sunday. If you're able to come this Sunday, 9:30 to 11:30 ish, we'll have our second day of Sukkot services. If you can come, you'll feel that they're hard. It's not like an orange. They're very hard because it's all pith. Reasons why some people refer to as why is this the goodly tree? First of all, it does have a beautiful fragrance, but it is my understanding is that the citron, if you have a citron tree in your backyard, which they grow in warmer climates. I think most of them come from today from Israel, but Turkey also. Um, there's no season for an etrog. The etrogim grow all year long. The fruit grows all year long. So that's one explanation for why they're considered a beautiful fruit. And so that's the goodly tree. And what was the other one? Oh, and the boughs of leafy trees. Well, you can see that they have beautiful leaves, and they have they also have a nice fragrance. So then you put all of them together, and there's a lot of midrashim about what they represent. So there's midrash that each of the species represents one of the patriarchs, including Joseph, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. And there's another one that they represent the matriarchs, the four matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. There is a midrash that says they each represent God in some way. But the most well-known midrashim suggest that they represent the Jewish people, because there's all different types of Jews. The etrog, which you can't eat, I mean, you can make edible things out of it. Like, for example, I always ask for the etrogim after the holiday, and then I turn it into a liqueur. Some people turn it into a jelly. So it has a wonderful fragrance, and it's edible. That represents Jewish people who have two important qualities. They are learned in Torah, and they do good deeds. You have the palm branch, which is palm tree, which is date. So dates come from the palm tree, but there's no fragrance here. So this represents people who are very learned in Torah, but they're not so good on doing good deeds. The myrtle, which has a wonderful fragrance, but there's no food, you can't eat it. It represents Jews who are good on the good deeds, but they're not very learned. And nebuch, the willows, you can't eat them, and they don't have a fragrance, so they're like Jews who have neither. So what do? You're not going to say goodbye to these Jews. You bind all the different types of Jews together, and all the different qualities benefit one another. So that's one of the explanations of why these four species. It's also very possible. Oops. Oh, well, we'll get to that in a second. It's also very possible that because the Torah doesn't explain to us why we should have a lulav and etrog, why we're carrying these around. It just says you're supposed to rejoice with them. So most scholars suggest that the lulav when they're all put together, is a fertility symbol. And like other temple rituals, it originally functioned as a means of propitiating God for rain. We're asking, that's why we're walking around saying, Hoshana, save us, we need the rain. And it's kind of like we're giving God a hint. Here, let's go back to that picture where um, you can see it doesn't take much imagination to see the lulav as the male organ, and and then the etrog possibly the female organ, or at least the other two plants needing rain. So again, this idea of fertility, we need the rain for uh, for the coming year. So the lulav and etrog may have been a fertility symbol to wave, to kind of like, God, you get it? We're giving you a hint. We're giving you a hint here. We need the rain to make the land fertile. Okay, so that's one of the two key symbols for this holiday. Go back to our sukkah. And the sukkah, yeah, we were talking about it. It's this booth. The key to the sukkah is not the walls. As you can see here, it's got 4 walls, 3 walls, or 2.5 walls. It's the roof. So you can actually have a fixed structure throughout the year of walls, these 4 walls. This person wanted, they could keep the walls up all year long, but you have to replace the roof. The roof has to be new. And the idea here is that the roof gives shade, just like we mentioned before, the shade that, again, the ancient farmer would live in the booth when he was tending to his crops. The roof has a special name to it. It's called schach. So if you're having trouble with the ch sound, you got to get 2 of them in this one. Schach. And it has to come from natural substances. And you can see here branches, pieces of wood. Here's another sukkah. It's got pieces of wood. I gave you a picture of 3 different types of Sukkot. Here's one which is 4 walls. You can see it's and Daniel's family has well, actually I guess it's a 3 wall sukkah now because it's open on one side. But I think but it could certainly be a 4 wall sukkah made out of plywood. And yeah, I mean, and the whole point is you're supposed to live in this sukkah. It's it's a temporary dwelling place, which you can see even this 4-walled sukkah would be a little fragile. Every year in our synagogue, we put up a sukkah. We tried so many different ways of doing it, and it always blows down. So it is definitely, I can assure you, it is a fragile, even some of that we've used to fortify the wood, it still blows down. So and that represents the fragility of the holiday. This element of fragility. On the one hand, we're eating outside. It's so nice. We're all eating outside. It's great. Here's the simcha part of the holiday. But on the other hand, these things are fragile, and that represents the fragility of this period of time. So this one is a 4-wall with a door in there, right? This one is a 3-wall sukkah. So it's open on one side, but you have 3 walls around it. Again, the walls can be anything. It could be wood. It can be, this is canvas. But the roof has to be natural materials. And you can see how they've decorated it here. And it can also be 2.5 walls. So you've got, which is really 3. It's just that one of the walls is not a full wall. So you have 1 wall, 2 walls, and then a partial wall. So even that would be considered acceptable as a sukkah. and I assume that the roof here is just wood of some kind. Now, I like this picture here because you can see that this is a picture in Israel. People are pretty creative. Not everybody has enough space in their backyard. You live in an apartment building, so what do? Well, you put your sukkah on the veranda. The only thing is, because of the way this building is constructed, unfortunately, the people down here. Oh, here, this is really actually, let's see if I can make this picture bigger. So I want you to see what one person did to make it kosher. You see, the person here with the big sukkah, only a small piece of it is kosher because you can't have anything above the sukkah that's not sukkah, that's not natural. So this sukkah, which is up here, is fine, but the sukkah below it is covered by the sukkah above. So that's a problem. But you notice what this guy over here did. See, he left all the area where the sukkah above on the second or the third floor is covering. He built his sukkah right here where there's total open space. So he was very cognizant of making sure that he was putting up a kosher sukkah. And the sukkah doesn't have to be that big. It can be, can be even smaller than this. Of course, if you've got a family and you want everybody to eat at the same time, it might be a little hard, but a kosher sukkah doesn't have to be that large. The I was going to say, so what would people do? They would live in the sukkah the whole week because again, the idea is what you are living in a temporary abode, just like God protected the people while they were traveling through the desert. So you eat your meals in the sukkah, you sleep in it, you hang out in it. I know some people bring their TVs and put it in the sukkah. However, because if it rains, you're not supposed to sit in the sukkah. So you don't sit in the sukkah in the rain. And the roof, the schach, that is your special roof, has to be, you want it to cover so that you have more shade than open space. But you can't have so much shade that the water can't drip through. So therefore, you're not supposed to be in the sukkah when it's raining. And in those cases, you're permitted to return to the house. And that's the reason why a lot of people, especially here in Indiana, it always rains during Sukkot, and usually it's pretty cold out. So it's been many. I think we tried to sleep in the sukkah once when the kids were little, and that was kind of our one experience. I was going to sleep in it. I think we were going to sleep in it one other time when we moved to our new house, the house we live in now. And that night, as we were getting out of the sukkah from dinner, we saw these group of beady eyes, which were raccoons. And I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to sleep in the sukkah this year. So unless you have a big sukkah like this guy up here, where it's 4 walls and nothing can get in, I would be very hesitant to sleep in the sukkah. Okay, so most people, but there are people who do. I think in the Orthodox community, I'm sure that many of them try to sleep in the sukkah. While the ritual of the sukkah commemorates the wanderings of the Israelites during the Exodus, the nature of it was debated. There was a rabbinic view that held that that the booths that God had the people live in the desert were not actual literal booths, but they were rather mystical clouds of glory in which the presence of God appeared. And so, according to this view, the ritual booths that we are in today, they symbolize those cloud booths of the desert experience, while the shade of the schach evokes and help us experience the shade of God's protective clouds. So that's another way of looking at the Sukkot. Um, okay, so I think those are the two key things. What else is there to say? We talked about the Hoshana prayers, which we say every morning. We make a procession with the lulav in the synagogue, and according to some, it was not really clear what. Well, I mentioned one of the reasons why we may do it is to kind of encourage God to know we really need the rain because we want the land to be fertile. Other people suggest that it was intended to ward off evil spirits, which brought harmful winds and rains. Maybe, I don't know. The end of there's a really weird ritual we do at the end of the holiday where we take 5 willow branches. We there's only 2 in the lulav, but people will gather other branches, and we whack them. We say a number of poems, and then we whack them on the ground. I have no idea why we do that. Again, it may be warding off evil spirits, maybe trying to, it was like the Tashlich ceremony, where you're trying to beat off the leaves on the floor, and if the leaves are coming off, that's symbolic of the sins are leaving you. So that's all possible. But that's Sukkot. And again, as you can imagine, we have special prayers that we'll say this Shabbat and on Sunday, that are appropriate for the holiday. I want to just say a couple things about Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. Okay, so I didn't really do too many pictures on Simchat Torah here, but let me get this smaller. There we go. Okay, so Shemini Atzeret, as I mentioned, was the last, is this attached to the holiday of Sukkot. It may be kind of like a finishing up holiday. It means, Shemini Atzeret means the 8th day of assembly. In temple times, it probably functioned as the climax of the festival week, especially since this is a whole period of holidays. You had Rosh Hashanah, you have Yom Kippur, then you have Sukkot, and Shemini Atzeret on the 8th day of Sukkot was probably a final big festive, a going away day, as you might have. Everybody's leaving town, and it's the final holiday day. It has almost no ritual practices. You don't live in the sukkah is done. You're not supposed to be in the sukkah on Shemini Atzeret. We're done with the lulav. There are special prayers recited on this day. Today, one of the important prayers that people recognize is the Yisker prayer, just like we had on Yom Kippur. It's a prayer that we remember our loved ones who are no longer with us. So that's recited on Shemini Atzeret. There's another significance to it, that on Shemini Atzeret, the second blessing in the Amidah that we recite every day, that this major prayer, we haven't got to prayers yet, but it's the main prayer that is recited 3 times a day. We add a line in the second blessing about God's power, which states, God who causes the wind to blow and the rain to fall. Why? Because in Israel, the rainy season starts now. There are midrashim that suggest, here's one midrash that explains what the meaning of Shemini Atzeret is. And I think we can relate it to, if you ever have big gatherings at your house, big family celebrations, with extended family. Rabbi Alexandri told the story of a king who had an occasion for rejoicing. Throughout the 7 days of the feast, the king's sons were fully occupied with their guests. So at the conclusion of the 7 days, the king said to his sons, "My sons, I know that throughout the 7 days of the feast you were burdened by all these guests that we had. So now I will not trouble you further. I want from you only one chicken and a pound of meat, with which I will rejoice with you directly." In the same way, throughout the 7 days of festivities, Israel's occupied with the sacrifices representing the nations of the world, because there are a total of 70 bull offerings throughout the days. Each day we offer one less. But it starts with, I was not good at the math. I think we start at 13 and go down to 7. If you do 13 plus 12 plus 11 plus 10, 9, 8, 7, it should equal 70. Otherwise, you got to start with 14. But it's you go down one day, and the total number of bulls is 70. And they represent the nations of the world. So it says here, throughout the 7 days of the festivities, Israel is occupied with the sacrifices of the nations of the world, which prevent the world from being destroyed as punishment for these nations' sins. However, as we are told, my enemies answered my love with accusations, but I carried on, for I am all prayer. Because Israel trusts in prayer. So at the conclusion of the 7 days of the festival, God said to Israel, "My children, I know that throughout the 7 days of the festival, you were burdened with making sacrifices for the nations of the world. Now you and I will celebrate together. I will not burden you so. I require just one bull and one ram." When Israel heard this, they began to praise God and said, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us exult and rejoice in it." So, I should have said, we also say the Hallel prayers. Those are Psalms 113 to 118. They're special Psalms of praise, and we say that every day of the holiday. So that's Shemini Atzeret. So there's this change in the liturgy that we say for the next 6 months until Passover. And we have this Yisker, we have the Yisker service, and that's basically Shemini Atzeret. But the second day of Shemini Atzeret in the diaspora, and what today even in Israel is incorporated into that one-day festival, is called Simhat Torah, rejoicing with the Torah. The annual Torah reading cycle is concluded with reading the final section of Deuteronomy, and then we begin all over again with the reading of the first chapter of Genesis. During both the evening and morning services, we remove the Torah scrolls from the ark and carry them around the synagogue 7 times with dancing and singing. There are 7, once again, just like the rest of Sukkot, we do 7 circles around the sanctuary or wherever we're praying. But this time it's not with the lulav and etrog. This time it's with our Torah scrolls. And we can see, and the emphasis on this day is the renewal of Torah reading. In most years, because we don't have that many people come in the morning, we'll make sure to give everybody an aliyah. We just keep reading the Torah, and this is true for all synagogues. Although in larger communities, you may have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 Torah readings going on at the same time, so that everybody can go and get an aliyah to the Torah. Our community is small enough; we would just do it with the group that's there. But this year, because Simchat Torah falls on Saturday night, and it's Shabbat, so Shabbat doesn't end until 8:30ish this week, maybe 8:20. It's too late. We won't do a program on Saturday night, and so we transfer everything to Sunday morning. Because usually what we would do on Saturday night, on the evening, is a lot of the kids come out and we have dancing with the Torah scrolls, and then there's three aliyot read. You read portions of the last chapter of Deuteronomy, and we call up all the women, then all the men, and then all the kids for the different aliyot, and everybody comes up to, all these groups come up together. And then in the morning we have, as what we just said, the 7 circlings around. We have everybody gets an aliyah. This year, because it ends so late, we won't do that. We'll have everything on Sunday morning. We'll have a brunch after services. We won't have it on Shabbat, but we'll have it this year. It'll be on Sunday morning, and we'll do some kind of a program of celebration with the Torah scrolls. And but we'll probably do group aliyot in the morning. We won't do there'll be too many people there for us to go through the Torah reading over and over again. But that's usually what happens, is that in the evening are group aliyot, men, women, kids, and in the morning it's everybody gets their own individual aliyah. So that's Simchat Torah, again, a celebration, and that's why it's so important that we read. Some congregations just read a portion of the weekly Torah portion each week. But in our congregation, I mean, unless I'm not there and we can't find enough Torah readers, we read the entire 5 books every week. Let me stop this. We read the entire 5 books every week, so that we read the entire Torah portion each week, so that at the end of the year we really have completed all 5 books. Okay, so that's Sukkot. That's our fall holidays. Next week we'll do God. I don't know if anybody has questions, or even if you were at Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, if you have questions about that experience. Anything you saw in the synagogue. Yeah. Melanie, Daniel?
Why is Simchat Torah aligned to why isn't the Torah readings aligned to either the Nisan New Year or Rosh Hashanah? Why not align the Torah readings to a new year?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. So I think the reason is that because you have other Torah portions that are significant to those days. So on Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year, you have the first day of the holiday is again, a new year. You have a story of a miraculous birth, which is the birth of Isaac. The second day, of course, is a little tougher. We could there's a long discussion about why we should be reading the Akedah, where Abraham almost slaughters his kid, that it was just miraculously born the day before, on the second day. But that's a significant reading. Yom Kippur, you have the reading of the of the ritual of the Yom Kippur ritual. Sukkot, being a festival, you have the festival reading. There's a reading that you read on all of the different festivals. So I think that it gets extended, it gets pushed back to the end of the holiday. And it fit really well because you had, I don't know, that's a really good question that I don't know the answer to, which is in the early Middle Ages, but there was always the question would be, how did the Jews begin and end the cycle of Torah readings in the land of Israel? Was it always on Shemini Atzeret? Or did it become prominent when you had the second day of Shemini Atzeret? And as we've mentioned, Shemini Atzeret, there's nothing really special about it. You don't have the sukkah, you don't have the lulav, you don't have any other special meaning other than just rejoice. So Simchat Torah was kind of like a second day of this festival. Let's do something creative with it. Oh, okay, we'll finish the Torah reading that day and start the new cycle. I don't know in the land of Israel if that was always the designated day. I do know that in some parts, well, actually, I do know in the no, now that I think about it, it makes sense that this is how it took place. The Babylonian custom, this custom that we have today of finishing all 5 books in 1 year, that's a Babylonian custom, um, which means it was a diaspora custom, which means it was people who had this 2 day Shemini Atzeret, and they chose to read the entire cycle of the 5 books in the 1 year. The Palestinian custom, and this is where you hear people talk about triennial. Oh, we do a triennial reading in our congregation. All right, the original triennial reading of Torah that was done was literally triennial. It would take 3.5 years for them to complete the cycle of Torah reading. This was in the land of Israel, Palestinian Jews. They and we actually know what their schedule of reading was, because certain other North African communities follow that tradition. When people talk about the triennial custom today, they're not talking about that. They're talking about just reading a third of the Babylonian custom each year, so that over 3 years you've covered all 5 books, but you're still reading the creation, the first chapters of Genesis each year. It's just you're reading, 1 to 2 in year 1 of the cycle, chapters 2 to 4 in the second year of the cycle, and whatever's left in the third year of the cycle. So it's a little confusing, but originally there really was a triennial cycle in which it took people 3.5 years. It took a community 3.5 years to read the entire Torah. So I guess the more I think about it, the idea of finishing the Torah reading cycle on Shemini Atzeret must have developed in Babylonia for diasporan Jews who were observing 2 days of this holiday. And the other days, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, just had their own special Torah readings.
Did the Jews in the diaspora also make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, they could have, but it would have taken obviously a much longer time. Some Jews for a long time, they would send donations to the temple. Since they couldn't get there, they would send donations to participate, in the offerings that were made, that they couldn't be there for themselves. But I'm sure you could have gone. I mean, and people do it today. People travel. It's a lot easier today. You take a plane ride. But no, people all the time go to Israel now for the holidays, and especially I don't know if this is appropriate observance of the custom, but I think a lot of people would go on Passover. So we don't have to have 2 Seders. We'll just have 1 Seder. We'll go to Jerusalem, and we'll have the 1 Seder, because they only observe 1 day of Passover. So, but anybody else, any questions about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur? Things we did, things the cantor did, anything about the music? Okay. All right. Well, you don't have to have questions, but if you do, let me know. Wait, my computer's about to die. So let me plug it in here. All right. So what I want to do, since we finished at 8:30, I really want to try to finish by 8:30 each week, so we can do a little bit of review of Hebrew letters. We haven't been able to do it because the other holidays took up so much time, but okay, wait, I just got to remember what I did with it. Okay. Here we go. Come on. Open up. Okay. Let me move it over. Wait, it's okay. I don't know what. Wait, no, don't do that. Wait, no, what? I don't want you to. What? Oh, okay. Now it has to restart. Okay. Okay, good timing. All right. Come on. There we go. Let me move this over and we will share the screen. No, where? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, let me expand this. Maybe I'll just close this. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I think last time we got up to, we got up to, we got it right. We got up to hey. Okay, this is the letter. Just do some review here. This is the letter hey. It makes the ha sound, and hey as in hole, because there's a little hole there. There's another letter that does not have a hole. It's a different letter, but we'll get to that. And it makes a h sound. However, it is a little bit like the aleph, where the aleph sometimes, and I think we haven't got to the letter yod yet, but it's a letter that also sometimes, there are some letters in Hebrew that can be a vowel. They don't make a sound in this case, but when it's at the end of a word, you don't pronounce it, but it's kind of connected to the vowel. So we'll get to that. So let's just review. Line 1 is hey with the vowels we've learned so far. Ha, ha, he, ha, ha, he. And line 2, ha, ha, he, ha, he. Now, what they're saying here is on this one, the letter is going to be silent, and it's kind of connected to the vowel. So in line 3, it's ah, ba. See, aleph is doing the same thing. Ba, va, ra, ma, ba. Let's see if I can make this any bigger. Oh, that's better. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Here's line 5. Oh, no, 4, sorry. Ma, he, ima. Line 5, abba, ha'av, ba. Line 6 is ima, ba'a. And again, notice we mentioned this before. There are dots in various letters. They're there for various grammatical reasons, but we only pay attention really when they do the letters that they change to the sounds. This is one of them. The ba, when there's a ball in there, it's ba. And when it's when it's empty here in line 9, there's a void. It's just a v sound. Otherwise, if you see a dot in the letter here where it makes the m sound like an M, just ignore it. Line 7, abba, ba, ima, ba'a. And line 8, abba, rabbi, harabi, ba. Okay, and again, some of the reminders, the mnemonics with the letters. This is a r sound because it's round. Rabbi. Okay, and we'll just finish the page here. Ima, ma, ha'av, Rabbi. Abba, me, he, Ima. Avi, Rabbi, Ma, Imi. And line 12, Ma, he, Ima. And the last one, Ha'av, Amar, Ima, Ba'a, Ima, Ba'a. All right, here's a new letter and a new vowel. If didn't understand why there wasn't a sound before, now we got two letters in Hebrew without sounds. But there is an explanation. The as I mentioned before, the aleph, you do need the aleph sometimes. You need a letter that doesn't make a sound, because what if you want to get the vowel sound, but you don't want the consonant sound? But what do you need a second one for? Well, it's actually because in some Jewish dialects, especially Arab Jews, they pronounce this letter. It's actually pronounced like in the back of your throat. I'm not even sure how to do it, but they do make a sound with it. I think it's in Arabic as well. But over time, various Jewish or Hebrew dialects drop the sound, and so now it exists as another letter without a sound. And here's the three dots here, like a triangle is pronounced eh. So that kind of looks like eggs here, a little basket of eggs. Egg, eh. So line 1 is eh, ah, eh, erev, ba, me, re, eh, e, eh. All right, line 3 is erev, ba. Line 4, erev, 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 ba. 5 is erev, ba, abba, ba. Line 6 is erev, ba, abba, ba. Erev, ba, abba, ba. Ba, erev, abba, ba. Line 9, ha, rabbi, ba, erev, ha'av, ba, erev. Once again, you see there's the b with the ball in it and the v with the void. Ima, ba'a, erev. And the last one is mi, erev, mi, ba'a, erev. So here we learned a new word. Erev is the evening. The name for the evening service, sometimes it's referred to as ma'ariv, has those 3 letters in it. Sometimes it's called arvit, again, the 3 letters in it, with evening. So that's the evening service. I was just going to say, Erev Ba is a name of a very popular Israeli song. And you ever do Israeli dance, very popular Israeli dance too. Folk dance. Okay, one more thing we'll do tonight, which is the vowel O. The vowel O comes in 2 forms. Sometimes it's got this letter underneath it, which we'll get to, which is a consonant in and of itself. But when it has the dot on it, it's an O vowel. And sometimes that consonant just disappears and you have a little dot over the letter, and that tells you it's an O sound. The way to remember this is if you get hit on the top of the head, you go O. Ow! I think where the ooh's, no, okay. We'll get to the next one. We get hit in the stomach, you go ooh, because that's the ooh, if there's a dot in the middle there. Okay. But in any case, we're learning O. So line 1, bo, vo, mo, mo. See, it doesn't make a difference whether there's just a dot or whether it's the letter with the dot. O, O, O. Oh, whoops. Row, row, row. Ho, ho, ha, ha. And line 3, ba, mo, re. Ba, ba, ha, mo, re. Mo, re. Eve, re. Here's that silent vowel doing its work. You want to stop on that. Eve, re. Ima, mo, ra. In line 5, here they're putting it together as words. Mo, re, eve, re. Avi, rabi, imi, mora. Abba, ima, ha, mo, re. Ba. Ha, mo, re. Ha, iv, re. Ba. Abba, avi, ha, mo, ra. Ba'a. Notice there's a difference between a mora is a teacher, but you can see down here, more is a male teacher, mora is a female teacher. And that hey at the end is silent in both cases. Abba, amar, ha more, ha ivri, ba. Ima, amra, ha mora, ba'a. Here again, we have an example of agreement in Hebrew. So Abba is masculine. Amar is the verb that fits with masculine. Abba Amar. But Ima is feminine, obviously, and Ima Amra. And the Moreh is a masculine teacher. He agrees with the word Ba. So the teacher is coming. The Hebrew teacher is coming. Ivri is Hebrew. The Hebrew teacher is coming, and here it's Hamora Ba'a. The teacher is coming. But again, it's feminine. It's a female teacher, so the verb has to agree with the feminine noun. Line 12, mi ba hamore ba. Mi ba'a hamora ba'a. Maybe if you just hang on with me for a couple more minutes, we'll start with the d. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because one of the letters that always gets confused, or two of the letters that gets confused, is the r sound and the d sound. So here they tell us D, that this letter is pronounced like D as in dent. See, it's got a little dent there. Where's the resh? Here, it's in line, let's go down to line 10 here. Do da, ha do da, di vo ra. So here's the rounded ra, and here's the dented d. So ha do da, di vo ra, mo ra. Okay, and we'll finish with that. So this is the does. We'll just do the first two lines here. Do, do. It doesn't make a difference if the consonant is there or not. Do or do, do. Do, d, do, da. Da, di, da, di, dod, do, da. And again, it's duh with a dot in there It's duh without the dot there. Again, so far all we know is that this letter b, when it's a dot, it makes a one sound, and when the dot is removed, the void, it makes the v sound. All right. So there we go. So that's a little bit of Hebrew letters. We'll pick it up next week. So next week we're back on Monday, and hope to see all of you then. Hope to see you in also for Sukkot. All right. Take care. Everybody
Thank
have
you,
a great
Rabbi.
evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.